Okay, and we are live. So, welcome to Music Therapy, Why It Works. This is the first event of ITA's Healing Arts Celebration Week, an annual fundraiser. We need your support. I'm Jeffrey Wolfe, music therapist, neurologic music therapist, and director of community programs and financial operations. So tonight I'm going to share with you how music therapy has helped some of the clients we work with here at Institute for Therapy Through the Arts. Because we're talking about music therapy, I'll share some songs and hopefully you'll feel comfortable singing along if you know those words. We'll have some time at the very end to answer some of your questions, and Jessica Gardner, ITA's Development Director, is monitoring the chat and looks forward to sharing your questions with me. If we're unable to get to your questions tonight, we'll answer it on our page within the next 24 hours. So, to start off, I want to take you on a journey and kind of set the mood for you into the world of music therapy. So picture yourself walking down the street on a nice breezy day. So the street is lined with trees. The sun shines bright enough that you have to squint your eyes. And all of a sudden, you start to see things a little differently. Nothing surrounding you has changed, but your perception is different. Although no music is playing, the world becomes musical, and you realize you're now seeing the world through the lens of a musician, a finely tuned lens that translates movements into tempo. So one man is being pushed by the wind, causing him to quickly move across the street to avoid falling over, while another teenager slowly fights against the wind, pushing and pushing. Another individual is talking to a friend, making large gestures, and you hear and see her speech go from casual to loud and excited comments. Dynamics. You hear a small child squeal with joy from behind. This is pitch. And as she squeals, her mother echoes this squeal, lowering her pitch, and adjusting her timbre. She praises her child and says, "You're so excited today." You watch a street vendor's rhythmic action as he prepares tacos for a group. Moving from one dressing to the next. Rhythm. Take a moment and think about how all these parts, these elements of music, play a role in so many things in our daily lives. Rhythm is part of our lives from the time when our heart begins to beat. But I wasn't aware of the power of rhythm until I was in high school. I started playing drums at an early age and tried out for the drum line my freshman year. During the first week of tryout camp, the instructor, Jeff Mawr, said, if you want to get better, put everything to rhythm. Count when you walk, create patterns when you move, and do this everywhere you go. So I did. At that time, it was just fun. What I didn't know is that I would bring this concept to my bartending job years later. So this was even before music therapy. One of my managers said that a good bartender doesn't need to move much in his area. So I began to put everything to rhythm, see how fast or slow or the number of sequences that it took to make one drink to the next with as little literal steps as possible. What I noticed is I didn't have to move much, and I got faster and more efficient and had a sense of flow in my work. If I was making a more complicated drink, I grabbed 2 bottles with my right hand, boom, 2 bottles with my left hand, boom, and then count as I poured. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'd add a dash, shake the drink, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1, pour and serve. It was a dance that all flowed through each rhythm. I didn't know that I'd started my training then for music and medicine and becoming a board-certified music therapist. So, because music requires multiple areas of our brain to simultaneously work together, when we learn something through music, it generates a neural pathway that incorporates areas that are responsible for memory, planning, movement, vision, hearing, and more. The more we repeat this process through music, the stronger and more refined the path becomes. Think about an airplane going from the East Coast to the West Coast. We want as direct a path as possible. Rather than using each section of your brain at a time, music creates a direct path. It creates an efficient path. So, me as a music therapist, we can define music therapy as the clinical application of all those musical elements in evidence-based practice to elicit a change in individuals within the context of a therapeutic relationship. The goal is to help the individual obtain the highest level of health. So it's my job as a music therapist to break the fourth wall. So I respond to my audience in the moment to create together to play. So when someone allows themselves to play, they may be more willing to experiment, to try new things, and discover those solutions. So what is it about music and the manipulation of the elements of music that make it work? So a researcher, a music therapist, Elizabeth Stegmuller, has studied this phenomenon and proposed 4 theories. These theories include music is processed across the brain, rhythm synchronizes neuroactivity, preferred music, so music that we enjoy, is our preference, equals dopamine, and singing has less noise. So I'd like to continue to take you through a couple of the clients I've worked with in my past as a music therapist and highlight how these theories are put into practice and how I relate to my clients and observe their musical strengths even if they don't know they have them. So conversations have rhythm, tempo, pitch, dynamics. If we don't use the correct tone or pace, the conversation will falter, just like I faltered there a little bit. And the timing of our responses matters in social situations. So while the speech and communication center of the brain is in the left hemisphere, remember that each of the musical elements are processed in different areas of the brain. And a music therapist can use the music to simultaneously integrate multiple areas of the brain when working on speech and communication. I'm going to play a sound clip for you. It may be a little tough to hear, but we'll see if it works. So this is an example of a drummer recreating the characteristics of communication from the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And think about how all the areas are working together.
Mr. Walker, I'm extraordinarily busy, sir. I just wanted to ask about the chocolate. The lifetime supply of chocolate for Charlie. When does he get it?
He doesn't.
Why not?
Because he broke the rules.
What rules? You never seen any rules, did we, Charlie? Wrong, sir. Wrong.
Okay, I'll pause it there. So this is how I think of speech and communication. When I'm working with an individual, I'm thinking about all these different elements as they're coming together, that dynamic, that pacing, that rhythm, and the drums really, really, really orchestrate that quite well. If I'm working with an individual who survived a stroke, I might, sing the song, and hopefully most of you know this. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back, for it's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. So the memory of this song, for most of us, or a lot of us, is strongly stored in an individual's long-term memory. So if we're working with an individual stroke, the mechanics of how to move their mouth, how much air they need to sing the words, the emotion that's felt when you hear that song, and that experience of going to a baseball game, and even the images and ideas that the lyrics represent are all stored very, very deeply. So even if parts of these memories have been destroyed, there is typically enough memory, so neurons, that they sing the end of the phrase, or in some cases, the entire song. So let's talk about rhythm again. A music therapist can help an individual on the autism spectrum work on communication skills before integrating speech and pitch. So I start by looking at the tempo of the individual. Do they move fast? Do they move slow? And what instrument do they select? Let's say they select a hand drum. I can engage them in an intervention where they repeat the same rhythmic pattern that I play. So for instance, if I just play the pattern, then they can respond. So this is a basic dialogue that's continued. Can they copy my pattern, and can they adjust tempo? And then I'll adjust the pacing like I just did, add dynamics, and ask that they then create new rhythms to practice conversation skills using a drum. So that way, it's like asking that question, how are you? And they don't just repeat, how are you? They repeat, I feel fine, or I'm great, or I'm doing awesome. So we're looking for that nonverbal way of communicating first, and then transitioning, or continue to do it in nonverbal ways so that we can still have those communication skills. So when we pair and present information with rhythm, it synchronizes neuroactivity. So this is that second theory. The repetition of the delivery of the information solidifies the connections in our brain. So much research has shown support for using rhythm to cue movement in individuals with Parkinson's disease, specifically at the lowest portion of the brainstem. So down here, this is subcortical level. We begin to process beat before being able to consciously realize it. In the late 90s, researchers conducted a few studies that had patients tap along with a beat and indicate when there was a change in tempo. The brain scans indicated that our brains begin to entrain to the beat in the reticular activating system. So entrainment is the process of one system's signal frequency to entrain, activate at the same speed another system. So when we hear a beat, like a marching band coming down the street, our cells literally began to match that periodic rate, sending signals up the reticular activating system to our emotional and perception areas of the brain. There's also research, too, that shows that when we sing in a group, those heartbeats of singers align. So I'll go into another story, how this can be used. So I was working with a 5-year-old on the autism spectrum. He was an adorable child during the day, but at night he had constant muscle cramps in his calves from toe walking. If you've ever seen a child stand up on their tippy toes as they walk, this is toe walking. His parents were very concerned and were considering a very invasive surgery. This surgery would damage the calf muscles so he could start from scratch and relearn the process of walking through rehabilitation services. Since the client was assigned to my caseload, I wanted to come up with a solution very fast and avoid intensive surgery, of course. So in the 90s, music therapists and physical therapists worked together to devise assessment and treatment of gait with a technique called rhythmic auditory stimulation. So using this technique, he would entrain to the beat as he walked on a treadmill or around the room. I didn't look for if he could entrain, I looked for how he entrained to the beat. Without constant support and weight on his ankles, he continued to toe walk to that beat. That was until we began to experiment with different types of music. It was if a switch was fired, and I believe it literally was. When I played blues music at 100 beats per minute, I'll fast forward this a little bit. He would rise up to his toes. So this didn't help that much. But when I played Baroque music at 100 beats per minute, I'm going to fast forward. He would go flat. He would walk flat-footed, roll from heel to toe. Now, I played this at 80 beats per minute to give you more time to think about it, process it. But we replicated that process over and over and over. And same thing kept happening. Blues music, up on toes, Baroque music, flat-footed. Me and my colleague, we hypothesized that it was the consistent subdivisions of the music that were emphasized that gave his motor movements a signal to align with. So if you think about your ankles, ankle joints, your knees joints, up through your thighs, all those things, work together in that mechanic fashion. So it gave him that ability to align. So when a music therapist uses this technique, we often do so with a guitar and a metronome. This allows us to keep a consistent tempo, so everything's able to be adjusted tempo in the moment, and then provide strong cues through the strum of the guitar that can be aligned with the person's movement. Since he couldn't speak, I could not ask him what type of music he preferred. It was important because I couldn't ask him that we tried different types of music and adjusted that tempo based on his gait assessment from the physical therapist. So this leads me to the next theory. So when possible, the first thing I do ask is, what is your preferred music? So research shows that listening to preferred music increases dopamine production. This is the chemical in the brain that turns on reward-based learning. When we experience dopamine, we begin to crave more of that experience. And the more exciting and emotional the experience, the more likely it is to be stored long-term. Such like going to a baseball game and singing "Take Me Out to Ball Game." This is why music therapists must learn to be creative and accurate in the delivery of the music. So picture a teenager who suffered head trauma and was diagnosed with locked-in syndrome. This means that he was completely paralyzed but maintains all of his intellect. He had been in that rehabilitation hospital I was working at for days and had the ability to communicate with the use of eye gaze and a letterboard. When I first walked into his room, I noticed the medals, I noticed pictures of soccer and basketball team, and the dozens of pictures of friends and family, and colorful visuals, calendar schedules, pictures of food that he could select. It was quite overwhelming. I thought to myself, how am I going to work with you? Luckily, I had music by my side. He had been referred to music therapy, so I know at least, someone was thinking he would enjoy this experience. And he was referred to make choices by spelling words. So before going into his room, I asked his family about his favorite music, and when I first went in, we took time to go through some music videos, and he gave me his approval by blinking twice for yes. He selected the song Changes by Tupac. He preferred guitar, so that's what I used. And we spent the next 10 minutes starting and stopping the song so he could practice using his communication board to spell the correct lyric of the song. This allowed him to become more efficient at using this and other visual supports for communication. He had a choice of the song and was motivated by the music. So if you don't know the song and you're above the age of 13 or 14 or so, look it up. There are a lot of words. I could tell by his eye contact that he knew every single one. He looked at me and waited and was ready to show me that he knew those words. There's even more to it. You see, when we know a song, music gives us harmonic and rhythmic clues to anticipate what will happen next in the music. I used this knowledge to slow down the music as I came to the end of each phrase. He anticipated the lyric based on his memory, what would need to be filled in, and was able to have more success in this process. For instance, earlier when I sang the song, "Take Me Out to the Ball," if I sing that, "Take me out to the," several of you watching are going to know and feel compelled to sing that lyric. Later that day, I heard he had requested to have music therapy for the remainder of his time at the hospital, and getting to know him and his music even more was very humbling. So researchers have also found that when we sing information versus talking, there's less white noise in the signal. This is the fourth theory. I think teachers, and we love you teachers out there right now, teachers and parents have always known this. If you sing something, it can stick. So sung mnemonic devices have been used for centuries to help children learn and memorize information like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Get the picture. So let me tell you about Nick. He was abandoned in the streets at a young age, adopted by an angel of a mother. She may be listening, and went through an incredible journey. So Nick sometimes lacks the ability to resist hugging strangers. And he also sought out female mother figures at the grocery store, at the swimming pool, and walking down the street and other places. This was especially problematic, and the police were called on a few occasions. Luckily, his mother in those situations was quick to come to his aid. Nick is highly motivated by music, specifically singing, and he responds and memorizes directions when they are sung. So I use the technique of mnemonic music to compose lyrics, the social skills, steps for saying hi to friends, avoiding strangers, eventually engaging in conversation, and finally how to initiate and sustain that conversation. So the first steps were, let's see if I can start this up. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. Step 1, stop. Step 2, take a deep breath. Step 3, think. Step 4, say hi or walk away. Okay, so I'll stop that there. So we used a K-oscillator so he could create his own beats. This motivated him to engage in the process. And then we mixed rap with singing and worked on continuing that mnemonic. So that was the first one. Second one sounded just like this. Say hi, ask how are you, give one compliment, and then it's time for topics. And so after that, we go back to rapping and rap about different topics and then switch back to the songs. So the beauty of it all is now Nick initiates conversations after he has been introduced by a family member or friend. He can ask open-ended questions and has even won awards for being the best teammate at his day program. Most of all, Nick can discuss his emotions. He can stay on topic and express how he's feeling and work through his emotions in daily life. The last thing I want to share is for the past 5 years, IT has been working in collaboration with Northwestern University to conduct research on music intervention strategies with individuals with Alzheimer's and their loved ones. So this program is called Musical Bridges to Memory, and it's been an honor to bring together professional musicians from across Chicago, several music therapists, and a research team consisting of Dr. Benactabor and research assistants and data coders. The first year of the program was a learning experience for me and the entire team. And we're continuing to adapt with the current state of the world. What was evident from the very beginning was that musical memories are the long term. The main purpose of the 12-week program is to promote connection between residents with dementia, their families, and their caretakers. So improve positive mood, engagement, social interaction, increase communication, increase the caregiver's satisfaction with the relationship with their loved one, and improve the caregiver's application of specific strategies that we're helping them understand. We held the program within memory care facilities around Chicago and provide a weekly training to family members and staff. So a 45-minute concert where skills could be modeled by music therapists, followed by 30-minute breakout groups with drinks and snacks. And then in that 30-minute breakout group, we jump to either song or conversation. One of the first things our staff realizes is that when you use that preferred music, the group is highly energized. Musicians must break that fourth wall and interact as they perform. And someone can go from lounging in their chair to dancing around the room. Hi, Julian. So take, for instance, this song. It had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around and finally found there's somebody who could make me be true, could make me be blue, and even be glad just to be sad, thinking of you. Some others I've seen might never be mean, might never be cross or try to be boss, but they wouldn't do nobody else gave me a thrill. With all your faults, I love you still. It had to be you, wonderful you. It had to be you. So, 1924 jazz tune, revived in the 1940s. This is a reflection, I think, of one of our favorite residents we worked with. When we first arrived, he moved throughout the program without stopping, would wander in and out, and we could tell that his partner was exhausted. After 12 weeks, his partner said it best. She said that, let me pull this up, that she has to be in his world, not where the universe is at. Enjoy where he is at any moment. With that, they have a good time now. They have a good time together. And that was lost when she kept him in that universe as she knew it. That if she would mirror what he was doing when he was anxious and stomping his feet and clapping his hands, it was hard to slow him down. And he was able to stop and will get over being anxious if she continued that process and began to mirror him and slow it down. Being able to speak to him when he does not understand, she would talk slower and have her voice go up and down, and she realized that seemed to get his attention and keep his attention rather than just continuing in a lower voice. So what we experienced is she shared, that love of instruments, and that when she learned to dance with them, she could then be in a normalized part of the world. The music and community singing were normalizing for her. It was no longer about cognitive ability, agitated states, and memory. It was about singing and creating music together. For him, during the music, the words to the songs were there, just like It Had to Be You. And she was able to just rediscover the relationship in a new way. So we're just about out of time. And what we're going to do, we're going to keep going and take questions for the next 5 minutes. But before I do that, I do want to thank you for joining us for Music Therapy, Why It Works. I hope you enjoyed, and ITA hopes you enjoyed learning a little bit more about music therapy, and hopefully you sang along some. Before you go, I want to remind you of our other programs this week. So tomorrow, Dr. Marnie Rosen, art therapist registered, will lead the life-altering impact of art therapy here on Facebook Live at 6 p.m. In this interactive program, she'll help you learn how art therapy helps people living with a wide set of life challenges. To participate in this program, just click the Facebook Live link on ITA's Facebook page. You'll need a couple sheets of newspaper, magazine, or mail. Make sure it has some pictures and some markers, pens, or colored pencils. You may also want some scrap sheets of colored paper and glue. On Thursday night, we'll have the live-streamed Healing Art Celebration at this event, emceed by ABC 7 anchor Karen Jordan. You'll hear from ITA's executive director, ITA staff members, and 2 clients. We'll share their moving stories about how Crave Arts Therapy has helped them create, grow, and heal. It starts at 7:30 p.m. Central Time on Thursday and is free, but you do need to pre-register for it at itachicago.org/HAC. So pre-registering is the only way you'll receive that Zoom link. We also have an online auction running through Sunday with 14 unique packages. You'll also find them on our website at that site again, itachicago.org/HAC. So, very important, each of these programs is free thanks to the generosity of our sponsors. So, presenting an artist sponsor, Wintrust Community Banks. Many thanks to them. Advocate sponsors, AFLAC with Vince Scaletta Insurance, My State of Mind, Northwestern University, Transitions Home Medical Group, and S.I.R Management Healthcare Consultants, and our friend sponsors, so CBC Beverage, Evolve Giving Group, InTouch in Motion, Northwestern Memorial Foundation, and Stanley Dayan of Northwestern Mutual Chicago. So your support tonight and throughout this week will help us ensure that Crave Arts Therapy is accessible and affordable to everyone who needs it. So please make a donation at itachicago.org/HAC. Together we can. Thank you. Okay. Like I said, we're going to stay on here for a second. Okay, so we do have a question. What's your favorite thing in music therapy? I've been asked this many times, and I think my favorite thing is because I'm creating music with another individual. I get a lot back from that in return. So while I'm helping someone find their path to healing, find their path to health, when we're making together music together, that energy that comes from that is very rewarding, and it's so rewarding to see that when they're able to use that music to make change in their lives, they do have a healthier life. I think one of my favorite things of working with children is often when they're in different environments, they struggle with either that socialization or struggle with the relationship with their parent. And when you allow them to come into the room and begin to explore the instruments, they're energized. They if they go to a concert and it's too loud for them or they're overwhelmed sensory, when they have control over the environment, they're then not overwhelmed, because it is that sense of control that they have. And maybe when their parent says, oh, I don't even know if they like music because they can't handle that, when they enter the room and you allow to give them that control, and then you start to flex how you're using the music, you see them blossom and enjoy the music and learn how to use it to, better their life. Let's see if there's any other questions coming my way. Okay. So, if you do have questions you think of, I'm going to start to wrap things up. I gave you a bunch of different stories here. So I think if you have questions, like I said, we'll answer them across the next 24 hours on this page. So feel free to post them there. And you can always contact ITA if you want to understand how to refer someone for creative arts therapy, whether it's music therapy, or one of those. Yeah, I just saw that one come through. You can call ITA and schedule an intake appointment. Akash would be happy to speak with you about that. There's one more question I'll answer before I sign off here, and which is, how has music helped me? Much like I mentioned at the very beginning of me going live, music was a part of definitely my adolescence. So growing up, it was grounding for me. It was an outlet for me to express myself. The lyrics were cathartic. And so when I was having any troubling times as an adolescent, that really, really helped to ground me. And that's the social aspect of it too. So playing in a drum line, playing in bands and things like that. I was able to connect through that music, often non-verbally, so without talking, when I wasn't able to always connect or didn't want to connect through words. So music provides that way to put those emotions out there. And I think just continuing that process throughout my entire life, when I need to feel grounded or I need to express myself in another way, then I turn to music and either find a new song to learn or create music for myself. So another question: any additional resources for working with older adults with memory loss, memory issues? So I think there's some great stuff that's being put out right now at alzheimers.org. There is I'm trying to think of the other website. So I think, just going with the programs that we run, things I was talking about earlier with how you think of our bodies and the way we move to music and how we move just in life. I learned from a music therapist up in Milwaukee. This really had an impact on me, that sometimes when an individual who is experiencing memory loss, they may be fighting for so much that often things can become confusing. And when there's too much stimuli, there's too many things that they're hearing or feeling or wanting, it becomes quite overwhelming. And so rather, at least with music, jumping straight into a song, like It Had to Be You or something else, we may present just something like a beat and accompany that with either holding a hand or patting someone's shoulder or whatnot, and limiting the amount of stimuli that they're experiencing. So thinking of things from that amount of like movement or touch or visual, a lot of those sensory things that we perceive helps that individual to feel, again, more grounded, for there be less confusion. I know you're asking about resources, so hopefully we'll also have our Musical Bridges to Memory paper put out soon. We are presenting it at the Alzheimer's international conference this month. So that publication is out. And yeah, so that will allow everyone to have some more resources there. And we're connecting right now with the city of Evanston to provide some resources through video and things like that. And they're doing a great, phenomenal job here in Evanston on creating different things like putting out the memory cafes that they're doing, or different brain activity things to help with limiting confusion. And one thing I'll leave in there, we know that the parietal area of the brain, that's one of the few areas that isn't touched with dementia, and that process of movement and music, that's where it's processed in the brain. So those long-term memories, can still exist long-term, and not just in the long-term memory area of the brain, the hippocampus. So that, knowing that in itself always gives me a lot of hope for continuing to use music with our loved ones diagnosed with dementia. We have one more question there. So, experience with kids with attachment issues. Yes. Here at ITA, we do work with a lot of kids who've had trauma in their lives, and that, of course, leads to a lot of attachment issues. And we've worked with some individuals who have been orphans and have experienced that difficulty in developing that attachment. Again, in those sort of situations, we're looking at, or at least I'm looking at, how to use music initially as that nonverbal source. So how can I connect with someone through the music? And then from there, how can I recognize my own emotions through the music, whether, it is feeling super excited while playing the drum, or being able to slow my body down. From there, being able to slowly modulate that emotion from happy to sad, and then feel where that modulation is in the body. And then recognizing, okay, so what is that with my parent, or what is that emotion when I'm around my parent, and so start to work on that dialogue, just like we would through music, and transitioning it into that parent relationship. And we try to do a lot of discussion with parents so that we understand what's happening at home, what's happening in the classroom, what is the attachment needs that they're seeing, because it's definitely the triangle of us, the therapist, the parent, and the child, that we want to make sure is present throughout all those sessions. So I think we're about 15 minutes over. So I will invite you, next time you're walking down the street, think of a music therapist, like myself, who has observation skills. So how we're looking at, those individuals and, anyone we work with that desire to learn about their music preferences. Think about what memories make someone come to life, what memories make you come to life with music, and how music really, it's more than just notes on a page. It illuminates our emotions. It may share, someone's true desires, like it did for me when I was a teenager. It may help someone share what their wants or struggles are, and then think about how rhythm really helps us synchronize within our world. So, again, feel free to keep posting questions, and we'll get to them throughout the next 24 hours. And please don't forget to go to itachicago.org/HAC. Thank you.